In this video, you'll learn how to use the list command to list the contents of directories, list hidden files, list the details about the contents within those directories such as file access permissions, and how to interpret them. Hello, I'm Jeffrey Sessoms. Welcome to this quick tutorial on the list command. Be sure to download the PDF of essential commands that I created for my command line course. The link to it is in the description. Let's get to it. The list command displays the contents within a directory and by default ignores hidden files. Let's examine the syntax of the list command. So first, we have the ls command itself. Following that, we have options. Options can be passed to the list command to modify its behavior, such as allowing the list command to display hidden files, list access permissions, or list the contents of files recursively. The file list argument is a list of one or more files or directories whose contents that we want to display. Let's look at an example. The simplest usage of the list command is just the ls command itself. Using the list command alone displays the contents of the working directory. Presently, our working directory is our home directory, represented by the tilde there. Executing the ls command causes the contents of our home directory to be displayed. Here you can see that it contains documents, ebooks, images, and projects. Next, let's pass the name of a directory in our working directory as an argument to the list command, ls documents. Instead of listing the contents of the working directory, the contents of the directory we passed is listed. Here you can see that the documents directory contains several text files and a directory called messages. Now you may notice here that Ubuntu adds some helpful coloration to distinguish between file types. But don't worry if your system doesn't offer that feature, because later we'll see that the list command offers us a way to see the file types as well. Let's see what happens when we pass the name of a directory that is outside of the working directory as an argument to the list command. But before we do that, let's review where things are. Remember that the working directory is our current position in the file system, symbolically represented with the tilde there. Within the directory are the documents, ebooks, images, and projects directories. We listed the contents of documents here on the command line using the ls documents command, which contains some files and this directory called messages. Well, what happens when we pass the messages directory, which is outside our working directory, to the list command? ls messages. Notice that instead of listing the contents of messages, the list command returned an error message along with some helpful information. The error message displays the command where the error occurred, here, followed by the value that caused the error, which was messages, and several short descriptions of the cause. Cannot access messages, no such file or directory. In this case, the cause of the error is that, like other commands, the list command looks in the working directory for messages, and when it cannot find it, list produces an error message. That's because messages is found in the documents directory and not in the working directory. So to list the contents of the messages directory, we need to specify where it can be found by passing either the relative or absolute paths to the list command. Let's look at an example of that. The relative path is a partial path to a resource on the computer's file system from the working directory. Let's pass the relative path to messages as an argument to the list command using ls documents / messages. Notice that the slash symbol between documents and messages is used to access a child directory. In this case, documents is the parent directory of messages since it contains the messages directory, while messages is the child directory since it's located inside the documents directory. Notice here that the contents of messages is listed correctly. That's because we specified to the list command where it can be found relative to the working directory. The absolute path can also be used to achieve the same result. To determine the absolute path to messages, we can use the print working directory command pwd. Now that we know the path to our working directory, we can pass the relative path to messages that we used just a moment ago here with directory/messages. So let's do that. ls/home/jeffrey/documents/messages. As you can see, we get the same result. Of course, entering the absolute path can be very wordy. That's why relative paths are so useful. Let's clear the screen. Remember that the list command ignores hidden files by default. So far, we have only glimpsed at the contents of the working directory. To see the entire view, let's pass another argument called an option. Options are also called flags and are prefixed with a hyphen and often passed to commands to change their behavior. To see the hidden contents of a directory, we can use the option A with the list command. So ls-a. Both files and directories are hidden using a period followed by a name. Here you can see we have a hidden file .bashrc, another hidden file .profile, and some others. .landscape is actually a hidden directory. We'll learn another way to tell the difference from a hidden file and a hidden directory in just a moment. To see the hidden contents of another directory inside the working directory, we can pass both option A and the directory name to the list command. For example, if we wanted to list the entire contents of ebooks, we could enter the command ls-a ebooks. And here you can see the entire contents of ebooks listed. Notice there's a period without a file name following it, and another 2 consecutive periods without a name. These 2 items are symbolic references to the directory itself and to its parent directory. And these references are found in every directory on the file system and can be used to specify relative paths to resources. The print working directory command shows that the working directory is Jeffrey. To display the contents of the parent directory, home, without having to pass the entire path, we can pass the relative path by entering ls-a ... In the home directory, we can see that it contains the documents and Jeffrey directories. It also contains a reference to itself and to its parent directory. To see the contents of the home directory's parent, which happens to be the root directory, we can pass its double period reference to the list command as well. This time I'll leave out the option A. So we'll enter ls ... So the first double period will access the parent directory of Jeffrey, which is home. The slash is the separator between directories. And the second double period will access the parent directory of home, which happens to be root. And here you can see the entire contents of the root directory displayed correctly. So let's clear the screen. The next list option we'll look at is option L, which stands for long format. It displays the details of a directory's contents in an easy-to-read format and is one of the most useful options. So ls-l. Notice again that the hidden files are ignored. To include the details of the hidden files as well, we can combine options A and L together with the list command, like this, ls-al. And here we can see that option L displays quite a bit of information. So let's look at this line item here. We can see that option L displays a file or directory's access permissions, the number of hard links, the file or directory's owner, the group it belongs to, the size of the file or directory in bytes, a last modified timestamp, and the file or directory's name. We'll cover the details here more thoroughly in a bit, but first let's clear the screen. We can also combine multiple options with a directory name to display the details of its entire contents. Let's see what's available in our working directory again. To see the details of the entire contents of projects, we can enter the command ls-al projects. And here you can see the entire contents of the projects directory displayed. You can even pass files to the list command to examine file details individually. Let's display the details of just the chatbot Python file you see here. To do that, we can enter ls-l projects/chatbot.py. Here you see the details of just the chatbot file. Let's clear the screen and examine the details displayed by option L a little more thoroughly. To make things a little bit more interesting, let's list the contents of the home directory along with the hidden files using ls-al. Once again, the option L of the list command displays details of the contents of a directory. Starting on the left and moving right, we'll begin with the first character, which is the item's file type. A dash tells us that the item is an ordinary file, while the letter D tells us the item is a directory. You'll see both of those letters most of the time, but occasionally you may see the letter B for a block device, C for a character device, P for a FIFO or named pipe, or the letter L for a symbolic link. After the file type are the file access permissions, represented with these 9 characters here. And they represent the file access permissions for the owner, group, and other. The first group of 3 represent the access permissions for the owner, in this case, Jeffrey. The next group of 3 represent the access permissions for the group, which also happens to be named Jeffrey. The last group of 3 represent the access permissions for other, that is, everyone else. The letter R means read access permission. The letter W means write access permission. The letter X means execute permission. A dash indicates no access permission is associated with the character position. So what does that mean? Well, the first 3 is the owner, access permissions. So in other words, Jeffrey has read and write access permission, but not execute. The group, which also is named Jeffrey, they have read, but not write or execute permissions. And the same for everyone else. Now for most of us, the access control list or ACL flag will not be visible unless they're enabled on your system. If they are, you would see that symbol here. A plus sign means that ACLs are enabled and the file has an ACL. Access control lists are a topic outside the scope of a command line tutorial, so I'll save that topic for later. The next character displays the number of hard links to a file, in this case 1. Again, it's not necessary to discuss hard links to use the command line, so we'll move on. Next is the owner of the file, followed by the group the file belongs to. Next is the size of the file, in bytes. In this case, 0 is displayed because the size of this file isn't quite a byte. Next, we have the last accessed or last modified timestamp. And lastly, we have the name of the file. Let's clear the screen. Let's end the tutorial with another useful option we can pass to the list command called the recursive option -R. The recursive option allows the list command to display the contents of a directory and its subdirectories by recursively descending into them. First, let's look at the contents of our working directory. In our working directory are the documents, ebooks, images, and projects directories. So to list the contents of documents and any of its subdirectories, we can enter the command ls-r documents. Here we can see that documents contains several files and the directory messages. We can also see that its subdirectory messages has also been displayed here. We can see that it contains several files as well. Well, that wraps up this quick tutorial on the list command. Be sure to check out my other courses and tutorials, and if you're serious about improving your knowledge and skills as a developer, then make sure to click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you can get more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching.